So, welcome back to another Thursday on the Pagan Perspective. I'm your Thursday host, Yeka, and this week we're actually talking about Thursday. So, our topic comes from our own very beloved Kara, and she asks how each of us relate to the energies of our day of the week. And so, obviously, I'm Thursday, and I haven't always been Thursday. When I was a sub, I started as Friday, but then for the last quite a few years, I've been Thursday. So I really like this topic because calendars fascinate me. And right now I'm actually re-listening to a really good book called The Big Splat. It's a little outdated, but it's still super fascinating. And there's a whole section on calendars because it's about the moon and how the moon was made. And the moon, of course, is very important in timekeeping and calendars. And so I just was re-listening to the section on calendars. So it's kind of big in my mind. So I wanted to start with that I think what we have, the system that we have today, is very intuitive to us because it's what we grew up with. It's what we've been around. It's what's been used for hundreds of years at this point within Western civilization, although there are other calendars in use throughout the world and have been for a long time. But it hasn't always been what's been used. So we use what's called the Gregorian calendar, and we split time into years, and years have months, and months have days. And then on the other side, there's years, but then there's decades and centuries, etc. So there's been all kinds of different calendars throughout history, and as I mentioned, some of them are still used and some aren't. Ours is what we call a solar calendar because we are using, well, we say the sun, but it's really the Earth's orbit around the sun as the main unit. Well, I guess the day is the unit. Now, the day is the time that it takes for the Earth to spin around its axis once. We look at a specific spot in the sky, and we say, okay, well, when we come back to that spot, when we can see that again in the sky, it's made one full revolution, right? And then with our solar, we say, okay, so how many times does the Earth spin around its own axis does it take for the Earth to go all the way around the sun one complete time? And again, we use a celestial reference point for that. Interestingly, of course, well, not of course, but it doesn't quite line up. So we have, it takes 365 sols or days and something to make one orbit. So we have to come up with kind of clever mathematical solutions, which is where we get the leap years and leap days from in our system to deal with that. Now, some calendars are lunar based, and I suspect, I haven't found any references for this, but that probably the week, our 7 days, are left over from lunar calendars, but some calendars are based on lunar cycles, which is 28 and something days. And then there are lunisolar, which is just a delightful word to say, which are calendars like the Babylonian calendar, which combines those together. So anyways, going back to our week, we've got our 7 days, which, as I mentioned, I suspect comes from the lunar calendar, because, so you can go with 28 instead of 29 days, because 29 is a prime, so you can't really split that up nice and evenly the way you could 28. So it probably goes from new moon to first quarter to full to the next, and then back to new. So that's where we get our 7 days, but they don't actually line up with the moon anymore. And then we have them named after different gods or planets. And not everybody names it this way. As you check out Tatiana's video yesterday, she talks about what they're called in Portuguese, but in English and many of the Indo-European languages, of course not all, because Portuguese is, they are named after the gods slash planets. So Thursday is Thor's day, or it's also Jupiter. So, like jueves, right? And, or Zeus, right? So, I guess I don't usually tend to think of Thor as being the same as Jupiter or Zeus, but some people do. I am fond of Thor, so I've always kind of enjoyed that. Oh, I've got Thor's Day, especially when Eric was still on the channel, and he had Odin's Day, and so I was like, oh, well then I'm Thor, But anyways, I don't personally relate to the connection between the planet or the god for my day of the week. For me, what Thursday is determined very much by what's going on in my life. And also kind of what's happening within the larger cultural context of the society that I live in, which our relationship to the days of the week are very much influenced by the work week, by the 5-day work week with the weekends. And even though I don't work a 9 to 5, I work more than 40 hours, but I've never worked a 9 to 5 where I've had my Monday through Friday. But that still, I think, kind of influences the attitude that everybody has around the week. Monday's sort of a hard day to get started. And people kind of complain and are grumpy, and and as you go along, like, there's hump day, and then Fridays, people are excited, thank God it's Friday kind of thing, and then you get into the weekend. I think Thursday's kind of a forgotten child in there, the kind of the middle child, where it's just like, it's Thursday. But in my life, at least in the last, I guess, 5 years or so, the most consistent thing about Thursday has been you guys. So I've gone through lots and lots of different changes in terms of, when I was in school, what my schedule was, and now and working as well, and then working now, what's going on has changed for what Thursday is. But because I do my videos on Thursday, there's always been some sort of reflection for me. It's a day where I tend to film in the evenings or the afternoons. And so I spend a lot of the day kind of going over my head, like, what do I want to say, and what do I think about it, and what new can I contribute? So it's become a day of reflection for me and for sharing, which I really appreciate. And I suppose that's what Friday was for the year that I was a substitute before becoming a regular host. But it's become a really special day in my life that I really appreciate, and I hope that it'll get to continue. I don't know if that really has that much to do with storms and thunder and King of the Gods or anything like that, but that's what, for me, Thursdays have become. So I would love to hear from you guys if you have a day of the week that you really connect with, or how that's changed for you over the years. Let us know in the comments below, and see you next week. Okay.